Good evening and welcome to Monday Night with KW. We are so excited to be here with you tonight because if it's Monday night, you're live with KW,
And Jay.
and Jay is missing on tonight. Pastor Gibson had a really rough weekend of travels, and he was not able to be with us on tonight. But we are so grateful to be here. It looks a little bit different. It doesn't look like our normal
It
studio.
sure
We're not in uniform.
does.
What's going on?
Well, guys, we are coming to you live from Canton, Mississippi. We are on the road.
We're
KW goes on the road.
KW is on the road, but we are grateful to be here. It's Monday.
That's right.
What are you celebrating?
I am celebrating safe travel so far.
Yes,
To our
yes, yes.
destination.
I'm
Yes.
excited about that. I think we are both celebrating safe travels so far,
Yes.
and we're so grateful for you.
Oh, wait.
Please.
We're also grateful to be able to connect
Oh
in this
yes,
way.
oh yes, oh
We
yes,
didn't
oh
have to
yes,
work out, guys, but here we are.
oh yes. Raining and everything around us, but we're really grateful to God for being able to connect with you. Would you please share with us what you're grateful for tonight? We won't be able to read your comments from the screen that we're looking at, but Anna Kay is she's fine and she'll be able to take. Oh well, maybe we can. There, I don't know what I say. Okay, but Annika will be able to do that, and she'll let us know um, what you're saying. So we're grateful. Tell us what you're grateful for. What is it that we do on a Monday night?
So on Monday nights, guys, we're here to just talk with each other, right? When was the last time you had a really vulnerable, authentic conversation just about life, ups, downs, smiles, frowns? We do that here. But we also, on Monday night, encourage you to go shopping.
Oh, yes. We would love for you to visit our store at www.kwministries.net/shop. You'll find lots of good stuff there from devotionals to motivational to cups to totes to there's free stuff there. There's stickers. There's all kinds of stuff there.
I want to encourage you guys, if you're watching right now, to jump on over to the website and check out the Unlearn Bundle. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I want you to go search. See what it is. See if you might be interested or if you've got somebody else who might be interested in our Unlearn
Well,
Bundle.
if you find out what it is, you will be interested. Yep. Because it's some really good stuff. Well, we're excited tonight. We have a very special guest
Yes, we do.
with us on tonight. Our guest is Elder Kirk Clunie. Full disclosure, he serves as our first elder at the church I pastor and minister of music, along with a host of other stuff. But tonight we want him for his minister of music skills. He is married to a singer. Their daughter sings, and he is just a great person for us to have this conversation with.
Absolutely.
A journey to healing, the evolution of church music. So we want to talk to him, find out about his journey to music, how music has changed over the years, and how this is impactful for church life, and how it not just impactful for church life, but how it's impactful to people. Please share your comments, and okay, you'll have to help us with that. We can't see anything on this side, so please, Elder Clooney, welcome, sir. We're so happy that you're here. You're gonna come on screen any minute now. There you go.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing highly flavored, less than highly flavored.
So on our program on Mondays, we're celebrating something.
Yes.
So every Monday we find something to celebrate. What are you celebrating today?
Well, I'm celebrating that I'm dry because it's wet on the outside and windy.
I feel like Elder Clooney is showing off just a little bit.
Well, we're dry too, you know. not,
Yes.
in, not in studio or in our home, but we're dry too.
Yes, but I could be in a leaky roof place or something like
True.
that.
Those are the facts, Elder. Those are the
Uh,
facts.
but
We're so excited that you come on with us and to have this conversation with us. And let's just go straight in by asking you, when did you start music? When did you realize you could sing? When did you realize that?
Oh, um, as far, as far back as I can remember,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard to put an age on it. I'd probably say maybe 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Back in that time, we had the tape recorders,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a little square tape recorder with the one cassette in it, and you'd hold down to press record. And I have a recording from that time saying to my mother, "Leave it, we're pressing to record us singing songs, on a Friday evening when we had worship. Record yourself." So I guess as a kid, I was taught to sing by my mom at family
Ah,
worship.
That family
at
worship.
family worship. So
Youth
your mom,
worship.
your mom sings, or she loves singing.
Well, my mom just loved singing and sang at church from time to time, if you put it that way. Hey, Patrice. I see Patrice giving us a shout out there. And I guess Winston went in and out. Yes, we're
All right,
back in the house.
we're
Yes.
back. We're it may be a rough night tonight.
Look,
Is there
man, we gonna praise God through it anyhow.
That's right.
there's storm all around us, so that's what we're dealing with. I was watching CNN earlier and it went out. So listen, it's
Listen.
okay. Okay, all right. So your mom taught you to sing. Does your mom or did your mom sing, or does she enjoy singing?
She does sing and enjoy singing. Not as much when I was growing up, the occasional now and then, but I can say she taught me to
Ah.
through
Okay.
family and then growing up in the church, you're thrown into choirs and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right.
So I don't want to jump too far just yet, because Elder Clunie, you talked about family worship and that being the first place that you were introduced to singing. Can you talk to us just about that experience of doing family worship as a child and how singing was really emphasized in your family?
For me, as a child, family worship was fun, because I was taught, apart from singing my children's songs, I
Mm-hmm.
was taught different hymns. And somehow, um, I guess we did fun hymns, or no hymn wasn't fun to me at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So because I love singing, I if I didn't know a song, I'd sit and listen carefully to my mom sing the chorus, and then I just study the chorus first, hum it with her or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
that was just so much fun. I
Yeah.
Mm.
I can't recall a childhood memory that wasn't fun when it came to family worship. If I didn't, if nothing else, I enjoyed the singing. I
Yeah.
wasn't up on the reading, but it was the singing. So we sang a lot of songs.
Mhm, mhm. I think a lot of families have moved away from that family worship. Can you share with us how valuable it is? Because I know I always hear you talk about your dad and how you had your dad would get up early and go. Can you talk to
Burn
us
them
about
hands,
how
boy.
valuable family worship is and why?
Well, not only valuable but important. I think it's the best way to communicate the simple truths to kids and to strengthen and encourage yourself. Even in your relationship, as spouses. Um, I I remember why my daughter loves music so much is because of family worship.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
have
this,
been to your house on Friday nights at some of those family worships.
yeah. So I mean, growing up, man, with a it was always singing, and she should learn the songs, whatever the songs. I sought to make it fun for her because, of course, her generation wasn't the hymn generation.
Right,
Hmm.
right,
So I didn't have YouTube growing up. We would play the music and sing with it from the cassettes. Now she
right.
has YouTube, you know what I'm saying? So from a simple thing as a vegetarian song that she's listening to all week, you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? To her other kids' songs that had rhythm and all that kind of stuff, and then finding the karaoke ones and finding piano instrumentals to sing to some hymns because you have to make it fun. But you communicate those simple truths to them. And I have seen where it has helped her. Uh, Case in point, last night before she went to bed, she's there beside her mom and she's humming this hymn. I can't remember what hymn it was now. But it was great is that faithfulness or something, just out of the blue,
Mm-hmm.
And I joined her in the song and gave her a kiss and like, all right, good night now, go to bed.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me ask you a question because you talked about the different kind of songs. Um, so growing up, what genre of music um, did you focus on as a child, or were you led to focus on as a child?
Interestingly enough, um, it was a combination because growing up in Jamaica, you're exposed to different types. I'm going to say though we more lean to what European stuff, but then we were when it in terms of the way we sing our hymns, pretty much um what the persons I grew up hearing, um like probably almost everybody in the 70s, Jim Reeves, Pat
Mm,
Boone, Skeeter Davis. Those were the popular people probably on the American scene that somehow filtered into the Caribbean
mm-hmm.
and into the Adventist arena that I,
Right, right.
that I was in. But of course, you had your local music too. Not so much song um, because maybe we were foreign minded. Maybe we were foreign minded. That it wasn't. But we were heavily influenced in what we call I can't even call that traditional. You know what I'm saying? Because
Mm-hmm.
even people here in the South where we are know of Skeeter Davis and all those other persons. Even if it was Elvis Presley or whoever it was at that time that was singing, Michael
Right.
Jackson. So all different genres had impacted.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And if it was calm and cool, you could expect to hear it among
Right.
us.
So you had okay.
Okay.
As you grew up, did was drum were drums popular in the church?
Well, the only instrument that was popular in the church was the piano and the organ.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Um, drums drums were popular in other denominations, not in mine.
Right.
Um, Even though soundtracks were the order of the day.
Mm.
Well, soundtracks wasn't so popular when I was young, so people would buy the books and you have somebody probably play the songs for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
But as soundtracks became the thing, everybody want the soundtrack because it's a full accompaniment.
Right.
The drums and everything in it. But
Right. Right.
but it is interesting how depending on your your socialization, how you can be prejudiced against a thing
Mm-hmm.
in one form but not in another.
In another form.
Oh,
Yeah.
say more about that.
Yeah.
So what I mean is that no one would bring drums in the church or
Mm-hmm.
wanted drums in the church. But when you heard the soundtrack with its fullness, the strings and I mean the guitar, whatever it was, and you're singing with the soundtrack, nobody complains. Oh, that was beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think the prejudice was very selective.
Yeah.
Where do you think it came from?
Socialization, how we were taught,
Mm.
how we were taught. Because if you were to say to the individual, and I think what it came out of more so than anything was when you can't control a thing, you become afraid of it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So you can't control levels because music is one of those things. No one will say you probably sing too loudly if you're singing by yourself.
Right.
But then if you have accompaniment and one person is not playing sensitive enough or one person is banging here and overpowering, then becomes distracting. But the soundtracks allowed for that balance, that control,
Ah.
and then the singer could glide on that, you know. Um, so I think that was where the problem really lied.
So, Elder Clooney, so you're the first person that honestly I've ever heard talk about that in that way. I'm curious because I think that this is kind of looking back retrospective and going, that's probably where that came from. But as you were experiencing those transitions
Mhm.
in church and noticing those things, what was that like for you?
Um, you know, it is interesting. Um, Growing up and singing with both things,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't really matter to me.
Mm-hmm.
I did prefer my soundtracks because um, it spurs you on as a singer, especially when you're coming through a good system.
Yeah, yeah.
Like a bullhorn on top of the tent. That leaves out some of the frequencies. But when you're coming through a good system, um, it gives you that vibe that pushes you to do your best. Um, However, um, when you only have just the piano to work with, then you work with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the nature of the beast. Everybody understood it.
Yeah.
Now, as time has passed and live instrumentation has become more popular, man, you want the live thing. You have to have the live thing. And I think our guys are frozen.
So anxious resistant. So remember there were four categories, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anxious resistant kids were on the opposite end of the spectrum. They didn't have a lot of self-confidence. They really clung.
All right, we're back.
We're back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was saying, somebody Tony was asking in the chat if it was discrimination or preference against, certain
Hmm.
things.
Good question.
In some ways, I'm going to say from my perspective, there was discrimination. There were certain instruments that have been demonized throughout the years, and certain instruments that have not been demonized. Um, and there has been that ongoing debate within Christendom
Hmm.
about what is acceptable versus not acceptable. Especially when it now came to certain genres coming into the whole mix. Um, so the piano and the organ are considered holy, but the drums, oh no. I've heard people say terrible things about drums. Even today, there are people who love music, who still have issues with the drums.
Hmm.
Um, but as technology has changed, I remember I saw two guys sat on two keyboards, and then they just came up with modules. And those guys made those two keyboards sound like an orchestra,
Wow.
like none other. I was just blown away. So inside an orchestra, they do have drums too.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, but it's one of those things. And what was so ridiculous, the most ridiculous thing of this all, is that the church didn't have, or my church didn't have any music that was um original to itself. All the church's music was borrowed from Christians of different denominations.
And I know that let's talk about that in a second because that's a very important point. But let me ask you this: when so were you in Jamaica when your church? Because I know they have drums now. Were you there when they adopted drums?
Well, my home church itself doesn't have drums now, but you have other churches who have had drums, just because of logistics preference, you know what I'm saying? But we bring
Okay, they
drums,
still don't.
we
Okay,
bring
okay.
drums in for programs if
All right.
they
So here's my
want, yeah.
question: the evolution from how was it when they went from not having to having? How challenging was that transition? Oh,
It was indeed, and still is a challenge, really. I think for the most part, no. Well, I was one of the first persons to ever bring drums into my home church.
Hmm.
And I mean, I went hard, you know. But some people are going to like it, some people are not going to like it. It's just not one of those fights you try to fight.
mm,
You do what you do, and some people accept it, some won't.
Yeah.
Let me compare it this way. It's like when I first learned about the singing group Grace Trillers.
Hmm. Wow.
Some Adventists like them and some didn't. No, 20, I'm talking about now, 20 years prior to today. Man, oh, to hear some Grace Trillers. And
yeah.
even still today, you'd hear a Grace Triller song being sung within our church. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
But before, oh, it's almost as if, no, their music isn't good enough.
Hmm. Hmm. You, there was something that you talked about earlier that I feel like it kind of ties in, but you may have addressed it with the question that came into you. Um, you talked about how music, especially in islands, at that time was heavily influenced by
Eurocentric.
um,
That's right.
that European influence. Do you think that some of the preference that you have seen over the years as it relates to the use of some instruments over others maybe comes from that?
That may be indeed a fact. Um, so one of the things as a smaller country, and I'm sure smaller countries are influenced by larger countries.
Mm-hmm.
So since we're in the Western Hemisphere, all our music filtered in from America,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean in Jamaica, from the good, the bad, and the indifferent. Probably the only thing that hasn't taken root or is desired in Jamaica is heavy metal music.
Mm-hmm.
In from disco to reggae to rock to pop. And if that came in gospel, all of that also came with it. And
Mm,
and and this is what I've observed now, looking back. Different churches gravitated to what they like to hear.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, when we moved from Skeeter Davis, then there was Evie Thornquist. Then there, coming up, we had the Bobby Masons, the Sandy Patty, the Lorna Harris, the Steve Green, the Stephen Curtis Chapmans, the Gator Vocal Band, uh, uh,
Mm-hmm.
um, and their singers that went with them. You know what I'm saying? And all of those persons that sung, um, in a manner that was more European influence, was embraced by the Adventist Church.
Yeah, yeah.
And how do you know? If you could go back and see the videos of the time, what
Mm-hmm.
were the being sung?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And around them. So, these are the things that influenced, you know, even the music stores that were there. They know who want what, and they
Yes.
furnish them, you know,
According.
accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's gonna lead me to now go back to talk about, and I think Sister Tony's asking, are tamarines okay? Not sure if that's what
Oh,
Tambourines.
tambourines are. The,
yeah, Tamara, yeah,
if that's okay. Um,
sure.
right, without discriminating against any instruments, right? What I wanted to go back to, what I think is so important that you said, as it relates to the Seventh Day Adventist Church, is the amount of music that we borrow.
Hmm.
Why aren't we writing our own stuff? Why aren't Seventh Day Adventists writing music that's that is Seventh Day
Unique
Adventist
to it.
influence?
Well, I guess a couple of things. It has to do with, I think, how our church has taught its people, or the things it puts in hierarchy of importance.
Mm-hmm.
We have focused more on preaching a particular message, and it's been the preaching, the preaching, the preaching, the literature, the literature, the literature. No one says, hey, think about putting some of this in creative writing and making some music.
Mm-hmm.
It's only, in recent years, probably the past 15 years, they came out with this project. And then it had a Eurocentric thing to it.
Mm-hmm.
And they employed, I think it was 3ABN and some other guys came together, and they employed, Reggie, what was his name again? Reggie and his wife, Lady something or other. I can't remember. But they were, Southern singers who, partnered on the project,
Mm-hmm.
to help to push. But, um, for the, let me say this, for Black people from Africa, no, that's not going to reach them that way. And
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? For Black Americans,
Mm-hmm.
no. For this generation, that album is totally dated.
Yeah.
No one is going to sing those songs in a church right now, because, and no one has tried to even sing it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we have not pushed in the early days, and probably still now not pushing it, creative writing.
Yeah.
Now, when I was growing up, few people were doing that, and the people who were doing it, of course, was using the accompaniment of the culture,
Mm,
which was already now not embraced by
by
the church like that.
Right.
No, let me dial back. Since I was Kingstonian, or restricted to Kingston for a
Mm-hmm.
while. When I started to travel all around the island, in every nook and cranny at different Seventh-day Adventist churches and ministering in music, I heard, um, the language of the people and some of the sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Lo and behold, I went to an Adventist church in Spanish Town, and they had a full band, and
Dover.
it blew, and it Dover, and it blew me away. I
Yeah.
was like, what? I would have changed my membership and go to Dover because Dover had it going on.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah,
And I
that is.
said, and it was, and guess what? The people there were not inhibited
Yeah.
by the instruments.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Here was another thing now, if you want to call it, I'm going to say it guardedly, double standard. Whenever we had crusades, we
Yes.
would have drums and everything, which the people desire to hear. And we would sing certain choruses that we know would go across with the people. But when
Mhm.
you came back to church, poor little drum got left by the wayside.
Yes.
You know?
And also did they also went back to doing I want to ask you though, how important, and this is a conversation I'd like for you and Kamala to have, um in the within the context that we are now,
Mhm.
of the challenges that we face as a world, um from you talked from reggae, thinking about Bob Marley. He used music as a tool to carry a
A particular
revolutionary
message.
message.
Mhm.
um
Yes.
from How important is it that we do write music that tells the gospel story from a Seventh Day Adventist perspective, and how important is that to healing, to healing that's needed in our world?
I think that is a great question. It is very important. Interestingly enough, there are so many songs out there that speaks to the same truths that we believe in. After
Mhm.
all, um, a few of our truths are unique. Put it that okay? So, and with some nostalgia, I say that.
You're trying to bait me. I'm not gonna let you bait me.
No, yeah. But I'm just saying that you can pretty much find a song out there that speaks to everything we believe,
Mhm.
Hmm.
Mhm.
and songs that have been written.
Mhm.
Um, and God doesn't sit and wait. It is interesting that a lot of the hymns that we sing, even that talk about, let us say, Sabbath, you know what I mean, and Jesus coming and the resurrection of the dead and all that kind of stuff, those were written by Adventists,
Right.
people who just wrote off of scripture. So I think today we have a generation that is now more akin to writing their own stuff,
Hmm.
Yes.
and they're not more comfortable in doing so because with all this copyright stuff, so it
Mhm.
forces you.
Hmm.
In my day, I think things made us lazy.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know, we just regurgitate something, and the goal was you need to regurgitate it just as good or
As.
better.
Mhm. Mhm.
Or else, if you're not doing that, Adventist people will boo you. You know what I'm saying? in nice ways, So,
I saw some comments coming up. Let's go back and bring up some of Tony's comments. I saw
They pulled out all the stops and arsenal to draw the people in that came in when we were talking about those
the
10
the
years.
evangelist,
Crusades,
right?
yes.
And it said, and I'm assuming the other half of that is they should have kept those things if they could keep the people. But
Yes.
And,
anyway,
you know,
then she said music is good.
Is good and food for a troubled soul.
but
Yeah,
so,
let me ask you, Elder Clooney, to expand on but that. Goes in line with the question I just asked.
Yeah.
Would you all
mhm.
continue to expand on how music is good for trouble? So I'm thinking about Saul and David going into play for him,
To soothe him.
to
Mhm.
soothe his madness. What's going on here?
Well, I mean, apart from just music for listening purposes, which indeed can invoke different emotions within us. You know what I'm saying? Depending on the instruments being used, the tempo, the intensity, all that kind of stuff. And without going into all the studies that have been done to how music influences the mind, the brain, the body, all that kind of stuff. Music indeed is a powerful tool. So that we are all sold on.
Yeah.
The challenge is the time we spend too much time arguing over what is good and what isn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, and we need to spend time examining for that which has for those pieces that have messages with them. What are they saying?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And because here's what I've realized: songs that are well written that speak to our situation, the things we go through each day, are the songs that are remembered and
Yeah.
seem to have a longer shelf life. So
Mhm.
there's this young man today who is in the marketplace called Jonathan McReynolds.
Yep.
And when I heard his songs, I'm like, man, this guy's talking about everyday stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like what Moses recent song says, people. They're everywhere, Lord, help me to deal with people. All of us have said that same thing. We just can't. But then he says, while you're there saying all of this about people, remember you are one of those people.
Right.
Yeah.
That's somebody else, you know. Um, and he speaks about us playing hopscotch in our relationship with God, and, or the devil setting up hoops for us to jump through, and those songs that speak to the realness of life have the longest shelf life.
Yes.
Mm.
So one of the things is, while it's good to have songs that speak to doctrine and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
people need something to help them navigate life.
Something
Yes.
relatable.
So
Yeah.
you look at the songs. If you have a favorite hymn, you look at your favorite hymn and see what makes it your favorite. It helps you navigate life.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I hear Don McClurkin loves to sing the hymn. Everywhere he goes, he sings this hymn about not alas and did my savior bleed,
Hmm.
but it's a cross related hymn, but
Mm-hmm.
he focuses on the verse that talks about, God showing his love and mercy even when God knows you're going to mess up again.
Yes.
So all of us, and this is what now the real good songwriters will try to tap into.
Yes.
But then again, too, you have other songs that have come through the era and they'll have one line 50 times and it's just a vibe.
Well, now,
you know,
so go ahead.
but
Sorry.
but but, but the different stroke for different folks, um different seasons. You understand? Depending on what you're going through, you
Right.
need something there. So in a troubled season, you need something to lift you up.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So to jump in, because man, solid points there, Elder Clooney. I'm thinking about just what you said up that last section there, where you said there's some music that's repetitive and it's just a vibe.
Right.
But I think it also speaks to the question that you asked, Pastor Taylor, about music playing a healing role, and it's never been just lyrics, right? That's why
Mm.
instrumentation has always played such an impactful role as well, because instrumentation, even by itself, can be healing. You
Yes.
mentioned research, there's lots. Music therapy is a whole thing by itself.
Hmm.
Like you can go and get training in music therapy alone, and it doesn't just focus on instrumentation. It focuses on lyrics. It focuses on how sounds come together and how that impacts people. And I guess, whew, I guess as I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking about what you said, Elder Clooney. I'm thinking about how they use music in other areas. Is this a missed opportunity
Are
in
we
our
missing,
churches,
right? Are we missing opportunities to use music to
in our
spread the gospel, one,
and to bring
our
healing?
unique message, and then also healing? Here, go ahead.
That is a very good question. So, um, just as you spoke about the instrument, the voice itself is an instrument.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it is interesting how we can be drawn to somebody. There's a singing has been described as speech elongated. Just like how an orator
Yeah.
can give a speech that moves us to action, or
Yes.
that stirs a conviction in us, a resolve or whatever, so can a psalmist or a singer.
Yep.
Because that voice skillfully, whether with instrumentation accompanied or not,
Mm-hmm.
can do the very same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think what has happened over the years, a lot of the devil um, even causes us to be afraid of that which is good,
Yes.
if
Yeah.
I can put it that way.
I
you know.
I agree.
So whereas we could have had many other persons develop or write songs or develop projects that
Mm-hmm.
communicate the gospel through a song or a collection of songs or through a play, you know, um, for instance, at one point in time, we thought that nothing was wrong with an opera.
Mm-hmm.
And what is an opera? People stand up singing for hours, telling a story through song.
Mhm.
Yes.
Now, when I did music theory and all this kind of stuff and appreciation and studying, um, I tell you the honest truth. I really and truly hated to listen to all this stuff. They tell you about listen and you must tell which period this is from and who and this symphony and I'm not really, you know, into that. That doesn't speak to me. I did it for when I was studying.
Right.
You know what I mean? You learn certain techniques of when you're studying. I, it is interesting. You learn certain techniques to sing in a European fashion, and you have to unlearn those techniques to sing in another
Wow.
genre.
Yes.
Wow. Wow.
So you have to. I mean, it's like hearing a run in R&B versus a run from Placido Domingo. That's
Yeah.
two different things.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Two different things. So um what I've learned over the years, how I've matured over the years, is to appreciate the genres and respect them in their own rights.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I love that. I want to ask you a question. And I see where Tony says,
People will stop and listen to a song and will not stop and listen to a sermon, but a song will move them along with the Holy Spirit.
that's right. That's right.
Amen.
True
Powerful.
words.
Elder Clunie, would you spend a second and talk to us about the dangers
Mhm.
of music?
But well,
Go
like
ahead.
anything else, like anything else, I say you have to listen to what you're listening to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen to what you're
That was
listening
good.
to.
That was good.
Because, like my daughter, I say, not everything that's out there, everything has a meaning. Somebody's trying to communicate something through a song.
Yes.
It's not just the rhythm. There's a message being communicated. As simple as it is, it may be. And you know what is so crazy? If you and I don't know the language being spoken today, a lot of the songs released today go straight over our heads.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and that's because the artists of today now are writing for our kids.
Yes.
Yes.
They understand what is being said. We are totally absent of the lingo, so we can't communicate.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're trying to, we need to stay engaged as to what is happening today. Nothing has changed. The more things change, the more they remain the same. They say,
Yeah.
but we need to make sure that we're relevant to the community we're going into. We understand what they are dealing with. We understand the language,
Yeah.
and we can speak that language and guide them out of it gently. You know.
Mm-hmm.
The what you just said is so critical. Like, as you know, we have a 6-year-old son, and we have to monitor so closely what he goes into, because those innocent ABC programs, they're programming them with music, with inappropriate music, with those voices. I remember in Ari's age, she loved the Chipmunks. The Chipmunks would come on singing really messed up stuff. Why is it that music is the tool that is being used? And I right. Why is
to communicate,
yeah to
because
come this?
th- um um I was told when studying, recall becomes easy. The
Ah,
more you say something, the easier it is to remember it.
Yeah.
And songs kind of put us in that thing. A song has a verse that says something, but that chorus
yeah,
is re-emphasizing the primary message of that song.
yes,
So people oftentimes miss, because depending on what may be anything artificial that may be put on the voice to mask some of what is being said in the verse. But the
mm,
chorus, you know, always jumps out and it's in their head. Some people didn't even know. Um, I don't know if you've ever seen those YouTube makeovers where they remove a music, a song from the past. They remove the accompaniment from the past, and they just have the words, and you hear the singer just singing. And somebody, let's say Michael Jackson, who was very popular back in the day. I remember when Michael Jackson was Thriller album came out. I just got a Walkman, man, with extra bass, and I put on
hey,
those headphones. It feel like I was in the studio. Doom, doom, doom. You know what I mean? All that kind of stuff. And, and man, I feel like I was Michael Jackson dancing in my own house. You know,
yeah,
but no but there's some things he said in the song you didn't know. All you probably knew was beat it, beat it, beat it. Whatever he said after beat it,
Yeah.
I don't know
right,
Yep. Yep.
to this day. You know, and all the song title is out there. People buying this stuff up because of how it sounds and the acrobats with it and all that kind of stuff. But we have to know, and let's not put let's not be unreasonable where our kids are concerned. The
Mm.
same way we were impacted, it's the same way they're being impacted. And we
yes,
have to say to them, hey, I understand it sounds good, but let's listen to this together,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
you know? And
That's
not be, yeah.
question. How do you? Because you know, music is so wide. And you said something powerful earlier, and I don't even know if we didn't even spend time on it. You said that if you try to control, we weren't going to be able to control certain things in bringing in drums, so forth and so on. Well, music can't be controlled. It's so wide
Going to
and it's
evolve.
so far reaching. Um, how do we and do we help our young people to be selective in what they are listening to?
You know, it's one of those things that I wish I could say I had the answer. So this is what I discovered with my own daughter. I'd look at the songs that she would like. The songs I like for her is not the songs that she would like,
Yep.
or the songs that her mom would want her to sing is not necessarily the songs that she would like.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like in my house.
You know what I mean? And then I listen to some of the songs that she probably would listen to also.
Hmm.
You see, here's what happens. We can miss a lot if we don't learn to observe our children,
Yeah.
um, the things that they gravitate towards can give us an indication of probably stuff they may be going through, or,
Mm-hmm.
or messages that are coming to them. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Um, the So we have to observe and we have to inquire, and then we have to also educate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people are going to have different preferences,
Mm-hmm.
and there's nothing wrong in having different preferences. Message must be on point.
That's right.
Message must be on point,
Love it.
because um, my wife, we both met together in the music business, and she loves um she loves
Traditional.
well, I wouldn't say traditional London, but she loves certain type of, you're right. She loves the slower, more you know, kind of stuff. She should like some up tempo thing too, but yeah, they're kind of on the our other brothers and sisters side. But I'm just saying,
I'm gonna
if
tell her
I
you
go
said that.
if if I go hard, into some what we call some Black American stuff, she's like, no, I mean, there's a lot of noise and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's not nice for you. You know what I'm saying? You know, I tell you, this is what I find absolutely funny. So I hear people talking about African people, how they sing lovely, and African Adventists, and they're singing the hymns and all
Yep.
that, and it sounds so good and everything. But as if we take these same Adventists and put them with those same African people singing African Christian music that they like to sing, they'll probably wonder what is happening,
Yep.
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 because a different thing. We are appreciative of the colonization of the music, but not the natural stuff that
Local.
comes from them.
Yes.
That's their culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said
But
we
let me
have
ask
to get,
this.
yeah.
Let me ask you this, and you and Kamala can take it. What does that do to a people when you say to them, "You're
Let them be ashamed of their identity.
yes,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
yeah,
and and, and what we don't realize, that we are not growing by that experience.
No.
Thank,
yeah,
thankfully, though, our church has been smart enough over the years to when they go to places, though, to stop trying to tell them anything.
right,
You know what I'm saying? But
right,
then the damage that was done already,
Mm-hmm.
or that influence that has been had, is there.
hmm
And
And so the
yeah,
people who grew up under those influences are who
Are
the
now
church is now
influencing.
trying to say, "Hey, no, it's okay," but they
yes,
grew up when you were saying it wasn't okay.
okay,
And
exactly.
the other piece to that is the people who grew up hearing it was not okay are also now probably a part of the people who are influencing
Exactly. So
the
exactly.
direction of
Mhm.
Exactly. And we're trying to say no. If you're just joining us, thank you so very much for being here. We're speaking to Elder Kirk Clunie. He's the Minister of Music. He is the abled Minister of Music of the Cedar Grove Seventh day Adventist Church. We're having a great conversation about the evolution of music, the various genres of music, the challenges of music. And I believe we are being really enlightened.
Yep.
So thank you very much for please feel free to comment, to ask a question on the last few moments that we have together.
So I have two questions for you, Elder Clooney, as we're getting around about that time. 8 minutes is left. As you're thinking about, as you're watching this evolution of music occur, what direction do you see music going in,
Yeah.
and what direction should it be going in? Because those are
I,
different
I
things.
don't, yeah, I don't really know if I would know what direction it should be going in.
Okay.
What I observe is that, um, as I say, think history repeats itself.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing about it is that, um, I grew up where the messages in the music or the songs
Mm-hmm.
were what people were focused on. I mean, from my denomination and others too,
Mm-hmm.
um, to see a time when it was just a hook that need to carry the song. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? What the chorus said, for simple things. I'm coming from when songs were complex to songs being very simple, to to one-liners. You know what I mean? And things will go back again to being message stuff. You know what I mean? Uh, Today, what I've observed is that people are trying to be overly emotional when it comes to something. So it's almost kind of feeling based. But it's hard to disconnect feelings from something if the message being communicated means something to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, maybe because I have grown up with being very, um, I'm very cerebral in my
Mm-hmm.
response.
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, and not one of those free worshippers who will stand up for hours just with my hands in the air saying, "Thank you, Jesus. You know, you did this for me." In all honesty, I grew up being the one leading worship, not the one in the worship being led.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it has a different. I see it through a different lens somehow. I just can't help it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what I've learned from that is that I have to be careful how I lead and
Mm-hmm.
make sure I'm leading rightly.
Right.
But at the same time, too, um, when do I get to um, enjoy the Lord then? The
Yeah.
blessings
Right.
of the Lord in that then, you know? So there are just so many things with 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 habits or the different practices by the different denominations. Some people seem to enjoy the worship experience more than others.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, what I can say I appreciate from who we have labeled evangelicals is that they enjoy a worship service where there is praise and worship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The conservatives, they sit with, I say they sit with a straight face and as if they have to be thinking about every song you're singing before they can enjoy
Ah,
it.
ah,
I mean, so even the hymns become um, um, mundane
Mm-hmm.
in its thing, and people need to get to the place where they can express their love for God. That's where I
amen.
think. That's where I think. I think it's not the music that needs to get there. I think the music is already there. People
Ah,
who need to get
see.
there at something, and
Yeah.
some people now, other people need to get to the place where you think about what you're singing,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
and that you're not just responding emotionally. Think about it,
Yes. Yeah.
because emotionalism is going to cause many just to go down a road just like that without even thinking about, hey, what is this? Is this even right? So
Right.
there has to be that balance
There
Mm-hmm.
we go.
that is maintained, and it really will come, I believe, through people taking hold of that personal relationship with God.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's really what it will come by. I don't. You can't even teach it. They just have to be upfront with God, because God will stop you in the midst of a song and says, "What are you singing?" Or, "Do you really mean this?" He'll do that. So
Yeah, he does. Sister Selena Stevens, thank you for watching with us. Tamara Richards' ass is light gone. But Anna Kay answered, we're in our car tomorrow. Um, and then Tamara said, I like that. We fear what we don't understand. I think that was from earlier as we talked
Yes.
about the drums coming in and not being able to control that. And Selena said, so right. Yes. And there was a comment on you. Oh, and Patrice Gordon said, hi, Kirk.
yes,
That
yes, I saw
you
Patrice
saw that.
there.
Okay, okay, all
Yes,
right. So
indeed.
hi, Patrice.
You know,
I pray you and family are doing well.
as we seek to put a cap on it,
Hmm.
um, one of the things we did not address, so in all of this, were the persons involved in either playing or singing.
Yeah.
You know, um, because you mentioned it earlier when you talk about David being a skillful player. Churches need to make sure they have musicians that are in tune and
Yeah.
sensitive to, because you have some people can play, but all they do is bang, 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 bang. Back in the day when it was an umpreke, umpreke, it's one note on one chord on the guitar being strong. you know, that's not the skillful player we're talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
So we have to encourage our young people
Mm-hmm.
to get trained, do
Mm-hmm.
your best, so.
Yeah.
If we
I
know it's
love
a
that.
powerful tool and for
Right.
people to
I
use it.
love that. And along with skills, we want spirituality also. Not just the talent, but we want as you said, we're sensitive to the things of God also.
Yeah.
Elder Clunie, listen, we had a wonderful conversation. This was good. The hour went by fast.
Yep.
Both Kamal and my hands are hurting. But it was a really good
Holding
hour.
up the prophet's hand.
We really, yeah, she's literally holding up the prophet's hand. But who won our gift tonight, Anne? Okay, said, "Oh, y'all were gonna do that."
Man, the
Oh
guy's
no,
on
she's
top of things,
ready.
man. Is that Sister Tony?
Oh,
Yep,
Sister
I knew
Tony
it.
won. Congratulations, Sister Tony. Please head over to
www.kwministries.net/claim your prize. Right there at the bottom of your screen, enter your information and we'll take you to the next level.
We thank you so very much, everyone, for watching. Elder Clooney, this was a great conversation. It was informative.
Yeah.
You know, I don't listen. I'll be the first to tell you, as you already know, I don't know about music. I can't hold a note. But I love music. I love the spirituality. I love the worship experience. I love praise and worship. And I praise God for you and your ministry. Would you, go ahead?
Just one thing to point out. We often point this out, but I just want to say I think something I heard tonight is that music happens in community.
Oh yes, again. Not by your. Somebody has to listen to you. It happens in
Even if you're a
community
soloist, you got to be singing to somebody.
to somebody. Elder Cooney, have the last word.
Indeed, indeed. Well, I want to thank you for having me this evening. Even though I don't know a whole lot, I was glad I could share the little I do know or have observed. And we continue to learn and go forward together.
We
Amen.
continue to learn and grow together. Hey, listen, if it's Monday night, you're live with K.
W and J.
Peace.